Here we go. Races 3, races 4. Port entry INEOS, starboard entry Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Cannot wait for this one because you know today the wind is up, Nathan, and it's game on again.
Yeah, what a great day we're shaping up here. It looks really nice out on the water. Going to have some good racing coming up pretty soon.
I think today Shirley just nailed it inadvertently by just telling us how shifty it was. I think this is potentially a Giles Scott day. A lot was made yesterday of the fact that it was really just a kind of a flat-out boat speed contest. It really negates that what we've seen, that advantage that the Brits possibly have, having a tactician who is completely in his element and an ability to look on the water, no grinding, no nothing.
4 minutes and 30 counting to race start. Remember, this team on your left of frame, INEOS Team UK, came through to this point unbeaten. They went in as a slight favourite by everybody, but then yesterday they got a reality check from Rossa, Prada Pirelli, and they sit 0-2. So as they said yesterday, they need 7 races to win now to get through.
Go back up again. Okay, stand by to bear away. Yep. Okay. 2, 1.
This is the race committee. The wind sampling period is complete, and this race will start on schedule.
That's the most important thing you want to hear. We are a go for race number 3 of the Prada Cup finals, and just to see them up and falling, how good does it make you feel?
Well, they've been doing practice runs here, Nathan, for a while now. I think even more so than normal. Like, hey, let's get out there. Let's get the blood moving here a little bit, boys. And we got some work to do, especially on INEOS. They've done a lot of practicing with these setups, and the crowd is ready for it, right? Let's hear it.
Hey, just remember, boys, in this part of the world, it is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's to you wherever you are around the world. And then the Italians say lots of amore going around today.
You didn't bring flowers for us, Stephen.
I know, I'm
We're
sorry.
a little upset with that, quite frankly.
3 minutes and 5 seconds to go before we see Port entry INEOS Team UK. Let's just get a quick feel of how both teams are feeling at the moment on board.
Nice position here. Killing 3.
We're already talking about how much time to kill to get into that start box on time. Very different ideas of how to do it. A long runway for the Brits and a short little runway with a tack for the Italians to get into this start box on time.
Really looking forward to this start. I think Rossa obviously got the better of INEOS in both starts yesterday. I think Ben Ainsley and Giles Scott are going to be pushing hard, and I think they're going to be pushing for the windward end. The windward end seems to have much more control in these starts.
46 knots coming into the starting box amongst friends.
2 minutes and 10 seconds they are allowed in on Port entry, and they are motoring into the pre-start area.
2.
They'll do it for a long time, and in they go. INEOS Team UK, the team that needs wins today. Look at the right-hand side of the screen. In come Rossa, Prada Pirelli. They're allowed in at 2 minutes, and they're in. And now it begins. The fight is on. It's the pre-start fight.
Box likely to feel small here.
We talked about this earlier. There's enough breeze for these boats to do some pretty interesting maneuvering right now, and a lot of times that makes for a little more aggressive jockeying for position.
Watch out behind him. Okay now. He follows. He's looking to get on our hammer here. Quickest is 19 to boundary. That's just past starboard lay. He's slightly lower than us now. 16 seconds quickest. All the way down hard. He goes inside. Can use the boundary here. Hang on, boys. Okay, killing 45. 10 to boundary.
This is the moment where Prada has to make the decision. Do they go back early? And it looks like they're going to. They're going to lead back in this position.
29.
Driving.
Your wheel.
Driving.
Ley lines 10 away.
Speed.
Staying on his hammer here.
A little bit.
Yep. Board out. Okay, going board.
Yes.
Your pitch. Yeah.
Stand by coming up.
Going for the hook here.
Yeah. Edge. Stop edging.
Killing 10. Killing 4 at the pin. My pitch, your pitch.
Go, boys, go. Big one. Go.
Back down. Easy. Got Team Racing.
Yeah, this jockeying by INEOS happened a little late, Nathan, right? They're in a tough spot here right now. They really waited too late. Giles Scott was trying to get him to pull the trigger a little bit earlier.
They got down to the pin lay line, and Giles Scott said no time to kill.
Doing another slow.
Looked like they were going to be very late to this start on INEOS.
Lay line is still 7 away.
Yeah, copy. Building, guys.
Speed.
Lay line's still 4
Go,
away.
boys.
They'll be tapping on INEOS off this line.
3,
Ready. 2, 1, board
2,
down.
1, board down, board down.
Got it.
Watch this tack on tap here, Stephen.
He follows.
Clear, on the line. 26.
I will.
Race start, Prada Cup Finals, race number 3, 2021. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli, INEOS Team UK.
Kenny, I think Giles and Ben just got greedy in that start.
No question about it. He went for a possible hook when his tactician was saying there's no time for a hook.
Move of desperation, perhaps. You know, it seems early to be trying to really go for the hook when an even start was probably all they needed today.
Yep. Just stand by. I'll pull the ball down.
22.
Okay, stand by.
I can see him.
Got him. Yeah, he's setting up. Stand by. 2-1.
This is a match race right now. This is going to be tack on tack again. Here we go.
Okay, going forward. My pitch. My wheel.
Hey, my rudder.
These boats lose almost no speed or distance anyway towards the mark during these tacks. That's why you're seeing such aggressive match racing. And maybe let's go to our guest expert out on the water today, Andrew Campbell. Andrew is the flight controller for American Magic. And Andrew, not only do we see a boat race, but we see an aggressive match race going on right now.
Yeah, you definitely saw INEOS come in and try and take a punch on those guys in that pre-start, and they just didn't. They went for too much too soon and trying to make a statement instead of trying to get off the racetrack, you know, even. But what you're seeing here is 2 even boats. INEOS is in a lower mode, trying to stay in clear air, and it's just going to be a brawl this whole race. You can see it happening.
Surely, any breeze difference from side to side, anything that these tacticians should be looking for besides actually just, if you're Prada, you're trying to match up. If you're INEOS, you're trying to escape. Is there an escape route?
Okay, Gilo, is the go, we go.
Kenny, it's more pressure as they get to the top of the course. I'd say more on the left-hand side, but you know it's really, really streaky. And if you're Prada, you're going to want to just stay with the opposition.
My wheel. My roll.
Nathan, are you surprised that, I mean, that was a real opportunity to tack exactly in unison and more kind of in that, we call it tack in the face of your competitor. They keep giving them some breathing space here. Are you surprised at that?
I am a little surprised. That's twice now that they've decided to just beam tack to windward, and in this position here, they're not affecting them. They're not slowing down INEOS in any way. They're just staying in touch. So they're kind of just keeping the race alive by doing this. I would have thought traditionally in match racing, you go wide on one tack and then you hit them on the other tack, and that forces INEOS to tack out of the bad race. So they're being nice at the moment.
Yeah, if you're on INEOS, you're relieved when that happens, right? You just got a break.
Exactly.
You are watching race 3 of the Prada Cup Finals, and it is a tight one already. Remember, Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli with a 2-0 lead in this best of 13 race series. First to 7 go through to face the match, but as predicted, it's going to be a tight one already. And the Italians with just a slight lead, and it is, I love the line from Andrew Campbell. This is a brawl.
Again, but they gave them space. I'm really...
I think they're going to ley line. They're talking about ley line on board. The INEOS are happy with the split, and Prada are happy just to avoid the extra tack.
Andrew, we talked about this before you jumped out on the water. This is kind of a way that the Prada boat sails, isn't it?
It looks like a boat that's comfortable with their speed. They're comfortable with their own skin, you know, and they're just happy to kind of shepherd those guys rather than affect them too much. You'd love to see them hammer them at least one of those tacks coming off the starting line. But like Nathan just said, they got the open course call, and they're happy to go to ley line nearly, save a tack.
My pitch.
2, 1, board down.
Okay, got it. My wheel.
Yeah, yours. He's clear across at the moment. He's clear across.
This is a 6-leg race, and Luna Rossa approaching the top gate for the first time, motoring in at just under 40 knots on a day that promises plenty, and we've already got plenty in his first upward leg. They will head around the mark on the downward leg for the first time. And that green mark you can see is the highest speeds they've reached so far, sitting around just under 49 knots for Rossa as INEOS Team UK go through the top gate and start the chase again. 9 seconds, nothing.
Breeze is ever so slight left. How are we to boundary here, Ben? We've got an intersection on boundary.
Yeah, pressure's okay here.
Okay, he comes, follows. I think we can just push to intersection here.
Copy. Give a little speed build.
Boundary jibe.
Copy.
We're listening on board INEOS.
Yeah, good pressure there, nice.
That communication that has so clearly been an advantage between Giles Scott, the tactician, and Ben Ainsley, the helmsman.
Okay, set up.
Crossing. My pitch.
Ready. 2, 1, board down. Turning.
Even on exit.
Yeah, wheel. Nice there. Go there. Hold that. 35. Okay.
Pretty nice looking jibe, that one, wasn't it? And they're still
Pushing, lads.
not getting any closer, not getting any further away. It's a very tight race, and those boat speeds almost identical.
This goes back to what we were saying before the race started. 2 even boats right now. Very clear, isn't it?
No, he's going straight.
Little speed build in.
Upwind and downwind, it's unbelievable,
Okay, we're going to
isn't it,
set up
Kenny?
left turn here.
I think also it's picking those moments when to be aggressive and when to just, you know, look up the course and sail your own race. And Prada did that at the top of the course. They liked that left-hand side. They wanted to take the left-hand mark, and they orchestrated that perfectly. But not easy to do.
Again, they let them breathe. You know, they're not. I don't know. Every match race I ever did, I wanted to control the situation. Maybe some would say it's a control freak thing. Yes, okay, that's great. But I'm surprised. Anyway, it's a different tactic. It might just be, like Andrew said, comfortable in your speed, but it's shifty out there. That's the big difference today. It is shifty, and it's a little scary when you get away from your competitor.
But goes back to the right.
Yeah, Kenny, I'm just looking at all these numbers. Look at the VMG number down the bottom of our screen. It's within half a knot, and they bounce up and down a bit as the boats sort of change with the pressure fluctuations. But there is not much in it in terms of performance. And INEOS here about to do a jibe. What I think is interesting is, well, let's try and monitor the loss per manoeuvre, because it's a balance between getting shifts and losing manoeuvres. So 90 metres on the exit entry to that jibe. And the lead, like, they're not losing much in manoeuvres at all.
You know, I was told by a senior member of our team that you lose 5 meters in attacker jibe if you do a good one. 5 meters total.
That's a great thing if you're a sailor, because you can throw the boat around a bit. And look at this, they're coming back into him here. Good chance for a split at the bottom mark, I would recommend. Here, I reckon INEOS will probably go straight. So Italy will go straight, and I reckon UK will probably jibe here.
And it's a tough maneuver, Stephen, so this ought to be interesting. This is a tough maneuver if INEOS decides to jibe around this mark.
Yeah, copy.
Rossa, Prada, Pirelli heading to the bottom gate for the first time, and it's a chase. INEOS are chasing, they're cutting the gap down.
JK means they're probably going to follow them in and roll right into attack. 2 boards down and roll right into attack.
Turning.
And there you have it. That's why we're listening on board.
Exactly.
They tell us exactly what they're going to do.
You think? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the case.
Andrew, what could you see on that downwind, and what do you think about the JK maneuver, the round-up tack versus splitting the gate and doing a jibe round-up?
Well, you guys alluded to it, that they really was going to have a hard maneuver to make a right turn at the bottom there. So to go left and tack was almost the easier one, and you saw them execute it very nicely. I quite like the left-hand side of this racetrack at the moment. So it's just so interesting to see that Prada is just letting them sail their own race, and you just have to have supreme confidence in your pace if you're going to be letting the other boat get splits like this when you're that close to them.
Looks like good little puff coming down to us 10 away, huh?
Yeah. 20 to boundary.
Rossa maintaining their lead in this third race of the Prada Cup final. Let's go on board, get a feeling for what's going on.
Ragazzi, 8 reti. The trim.
They're taking. Coming up a little. Yeah, I think we're five lengths ahead to us.
Yeah, I think at the moment we hit him because it's a lefty.
We like the right, yeah.
I count down. Stand by in 3, 2, 1, board down.
We've only got 25 back. He can clean out. 30 back to the other boundary.
Okay, so that's more like it. You're tacking on their face, and look at that. INEOS have to tack straight away. Now we're getting into the pushing them around, and you can hear them say we like the right better. It's a left-hand shift. We want to get onto port tack because we're going to make a gain on this tack.
Shirley, what do you see on the water out there? Is there anything obvious?
Kenny, I like the right-hand side as well. It looks like there's more pressure, but it's really shifty course. It's you know, it's not one side or the other, but currently great pressure on the right-hand sides, and nice play by Luna Rossa.
The words used yesterday with the 2 wins to Luna Rossa were flawless, balanced. And once again, we're seeing pretty much the same.
This is definitely a nice play by Luna Rossa in this situation. Maybe a little bit of a stretch. They used the wind shift to their advantage and tacked on their competitor at exactly the right moment. Got out another maybe 50, 75 meters. Not much, though.
And they do the same again.
Push them to the short side of the race course right now, Andrew, right? You got them over on the left. Why not just shove them into that corner?
Absolutely. You know, that first meet that they made there was dead center in the racetrack, and this one you see is much further on the left side of the track. Luna Rossa didn't go all the way to that starboard side boundary. They came back early so they could hurt these guys for a longer distance on port tack. And you see Luna Rossa is just in total control from that bow forward position, and you're going to wonder where these guys are going to have an opportunity here with, as Shirley says, the breeze is definitely coming out of that Honoraroa Bay up in the top right.
You're hearing the voice of American Magic flight controller Andrew Campbell and Chase Boat 1 today, echoing your sentiments. You've got to be in control.
Well, all of a sudden a match race is breaking out. Same thing, they're going to herd them out to this left-hand side, Nathan, and probably do one more tack right on their air. And for those of you at home, it didn't look like they tacked on them last time. They were dead in front. Remember, the apparent wind is around 10 degrees going upwind here. So tacking directly in front is really close to being on the person's breeze. It's amazing.
Okay, slight soft patch for 10. Okay, pressure back on here.
On board, INEOS Team UK heading towards the top gate and the completion of the halfway mark of this third race.
Set up here. Crossing.
Still 3 seconds on the box.
Okay, I'm ready.
2, 1, board down.
Got it.
Turn it.
Now that surprises me. Prada's obviously tacked on the ley line of the mark, and INEOS has gone quite a bit further. When you're behind, obviously you can't tack and just expect to be in the bad air, but I think they've gone a little bit too far there and thrown away another boat length.
A good course.
Luna Rossa coming up to the top gate for the second time to complete the halfway mark of this third race, in control at this point.
Clear.
Both teams said at the press conference yesterday after racing they want to sail better. We need to be sailing better. We're seeing a much tighter affair today out on course E, the back paddock they call it. But the length just going a bit further in favour of Luna Rossa. Now 17 seconds, 18 seconds confirmed.
Shirley, that was one of the best legs we have seen sailed since we've started watching these races by Luna Rossa. I thought that was a flawless leg that they just sailed.
Okay, nice there.
Kenny, I was wondering if they were just a bit shy, that they didn't want to get involved, but that was very impressive. And as you say, it's the first time we've seen them really be aggressive, really take on that match racing, and not just hope that their speed will pull them to the front.
And it's not just aggressive for the sake of being aggressive. Andrew, I thought they were aggressive at the right time, at exactly the right time.
Well, you know these guys are capable of being aggressive. You see their pre-starts. So, you know, Rossa's got that capability. What's interesting there is once they got off of that first boundary at the bottom of that beat, both helmsmen were communicating really nicely with each other, talking about where the competitor was, how much time they had to the intersection, whether or not they should make that intersection count or not. And they had that discussion, had plenty of time for it, and then they were able to execute a good maneuver and a good strategy.
Yeah, and Andrew, as exactly as you say there, they were very clear in their communication. They wanted to protect the right. You could see it on the water. Shirley could see it in the air. These guys are seeing the same thing as you guys. They want to protect the right, so they kept tacking on their face, pushing them left, and that's where they were just eking out that small gain on that upwind.
Small gains become a big gain on this downward leg. Leg number 4 and 6 is Luna Rossa sitting just under 43 knots going downwind and ahead of INEOS Team UK, but makes a great sight.
Interesting they haven't gone all the way to boundary there or ley line, unless they are actually on ley line there. I was shocked that they wouldn't just keep going. The competition's following you. Why would you jibe away from what looks like the ley line unless the wind shifts?
That's right. Pushing it here, blitz. Copy. Boundary jibe here. Yeah. Okay. Set up. Crossing.
Shirley has been talking about pressure with a righty.
Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Now you hear Francesco talking about pressure with a righty. That breeze that they had before they jibed there was getting softer all the time. You're seeing it go up and down through these as the clouds roll through. It's just pulsy. You know, there's moments where there's plenty of pressure. There's moments where it's a little soft, but you know, being in those veins is going to be the whole race here.
Andrew, I hear exactly what you're saying, but surely now we're going to have to see a split at the bottom gate here, and INEOS might take that advantage on the right-hand side early in the bottom of this next upwind.
Yeah, INEOS is tough to lay for me from this angle. Take one.
Yeah, copy that, copy that. If they don't lay the bottom mark, it's still an extra maneuver then, but if they do lay in, then they do have this opportunity.
Yeah, your trap. Right turn, JK. Yep, sounds good to me.
There are 2 boards here, my Trav. Trav up, please. Listen, nice.
Yep.
Have my board down. 3, 2, 1, squad down.
Leg 4 about to be completed of the 6-leg race. Luna Rossa around the mark, heading for the upwind leg for the last time in this 3rd race. The last mark was 18 seconds. It's come down again. There is nothing in this.
Yeah, not a great maneuver by Luna Rossa around that mark. They did what they called the JK. That means you're going to roll right into attack. They got down to 20 knots, which is almost boat in the water material, and really lost a fair chunk. I hope they didn't. You know, you can get too cute sometimes, right? That jive away that you were talking about, jive away from control, gets sometimes.
Exactly, that's what I was shocked at. It's like INEOS laid in, so they saved the maneuver. So Luna Rossa jibed early because they wanted that pressure, but then they actually gave the right-hand side to the UK boat on the upwind here. Now they're back under pressure again. This lead is, you know, back inside 100 metres, but right now they're going to tack right on them and start controlling the upwind again.
Slugfest, here we go.
I've got to say, if you're a non-sailor watching this, if you're in the front, you're in control seemingly most of the time.
22 minutes boundary.
If you're in front, you're in control seemingly most of the time. I'd say 100% of the time.
Just needed confirmation, Kenny. Just needed confirmation.
3, 2, 1.
Because remember, one mistake in these boats can mean disaster.
Well, this is one mistake weather right now, easily within 100 meters. This is one mistake weather, and you know, you're on the boat behind Nathan, and all of a sudden you got some extra juice. It's like, okay, we're back in there. We got a chance.
And when you're behind, you keep throwing the maneuvers at him, just trying to force a mistake. You know, INEOS here tacking on the boundary, coming at him on starboard tack. Andrew, is there any reason why they're working him up the right-hand boundary as opposed to the left-hand boundary this time?
Didn't have enough ease, Blizzard.
I think the only reason is just the geometry. You know, these guys are on the short side of the racetrack. If Luna Rossa can keep hammering him, coming back into the middle, that forces INEOS to sit in dirt until they're comfortable to tack again. They need enough room to build again on board before they can tack out of this starboard position, you know?
Shirley, from the sky, can you see any obvious wind pressure on one side or the other right now?
Ready. 2, 1, board down. 2. Okay, got it. Turn it. 2, 1.
We might have lost Shirley there for a second. We'll grab her back and get her view from above, but this is now this is just lay on top of your competitor as hard as you possibly can. Shove them to the short side of the race course, which means, like Andrew just said, use the geometry of the race course and the boundaries to your advantage. Don't give them an escape route.
Do get the feeling, watching INEOS and listening on board, they are trying as hard as they can to force a mistake. You know, just getting closer, trying to see what Luna can do.
Okay, going forward. High pitch. Okay, high wheel fixes.
A few more tacks in this race than we're used to seeing, isn't there? And every time you tack, there's an opportunity for an error in your competitor. So you just got to keep chipping away. What's hard now is though INEOS are in bad. They might actually have wind forward right now, so they might be able to sail into the center of the course and stretch this one out a little bit more.
For those who said there was no match racing in foiling boats, I disagree. This is a real.
High pitch. Yours. Okay.
Nice there, good there.
Easy.
Well, press actually, just good. Performance in. We may lay, he may not.
He might.
Yeah, copy.
Let's go.
Very good pressure here.
Both boats are currently talking about if they can lay the top marks when they hit the boundary here. Good chance Prada might, but INEOS have decided they're not going to.
So they're going to attack twice, right? And that kind of forces a split at the top gate.
But Rossa aren't letting them off this time. They're going to take the extra tack to keep control of the race.
Shirley, which side of the gate would you take if it was just for breeze up top? Which way would you want to round, to the right or to the left?
Well, currently the breeze looks good on the right-hand side. As Andrew said, it's sort of veiny, coming off that big island Waiheke and just drifting down. But to me, the right-hand side of the track looks worth protecting at the moment.
And for those watching at home, the right-hand side of the track is the top of your screen. So probably rounding the right-hand mark might be an advantage if our experts on the water are looking at this correctly, which we have no doubt that they are.
He's going.
Water down.
Both boats are going to be approaching on starboard tack, so the easier manoeuvre here right now would be just going straight and doing a left turn. The tack bear away in these kind of wind ranges starts to get a little bit marginal. We've seen that in the past, whereas I think right now both boats are most likely going to take a left turn at the top here.
Get pressure here.
INEOS's only chance really is to get a split here though.
High pitch.
Looks like they might lay though from that position.
Heading into the top gate for the last time in this third race of the Prada Cup final, and it is still Luna Rossa leading INEOS Team UK. The margins keep coming down. It was 11 seconds.
Away.
At the last, at the fifth, it's 10 seconds. Well, it's come down by a second.
Better pressure
But
inside.
here, let's talk increments.
Bring on.
Turning.
Got it.
Both boats driving here.
Oh,
almost falling
we're
overboard
okay.
there.
We're okay.
Come. Your wheel.
Yeah, got
Dangerous crossing
Okay, yeah.
behind the main while turning. Blenheim Mudd lost his feet there. Managed to hang on.
I have to admit, Andrew, I'm really surprised on these boats. We haven't seen somebody go out the back door here yet. That was close.
There's a good reason why I was pretty happy tucked in my little cubby hole up in the front. Believe me.
So you're not going to chase them down out there right now, Andrew, just kind of boat speeding right now. You got to do something different, right? Is there anything that looks obvious, like they might be looking for as they shoot down this run?
Well, you heard Ben saying there that he regrets already not doing a jibe immediately around that top mark. They're just bow behind here. They've got no room for attack. There's no room for a split. They're dead upwind of Luna Rossa, and Luna Rossa is going to match them the whole way down to the bottom here. No breathing room.
Down. Turning.
Even on exit. Hold the angle. 35s.
INEOS are really just relying or waiting for a mistake from Luna Rossa right now. They're not fast enough to get around them. They've got a split here. It doesn't appear to be shifty enough. You know, they're going to get a lot of leverage here, but I still don't think they're going to get a shift big enough to get them back into this one.
Surely, is there a shift? Is there a wind shift out there big enough?
don't mind, Trav.
Nice there.
Only if we cause it,
boys.
Kenny.
Boundary drive.
No, it's pretty.
Got a couple.
They protected that right-hand side, which seems to have a little bit more pressure at the moment. I'm not seeing anything here.
Should I go before? Got something to do.
Fans of Luna Rossa waiting to see if they can make it 3-0 in the viaduct of the America's Cup Village. The lead sitting around just under 230 metres as they both storm down the course. And these flying AC-75s, they are a sight.
33s. 40s. Okay, speed's coming.
Rossa there just jiving between the competitor and the finishing line. Looks like they will be on lay line to the finish. INEOS potentially might be laying in here as well, so not a whole lot to run in the rest of this race now.
But if you're talking about one thing that has stood out here from the get-go, and it is the race has unfolded, control.
Control and aggression. Well, they're getting aggressive on the water now all of a sudden.
But they're getting aggressive at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're Luna Rossa right now, as a coach, you're very proud of your team. We're giving them a little hard time for being lazy in that first beat, but you know what? They're doing it
The
right.
handles, boys.
Approaching the finish of race number 3 in the Prada Cup final, and Luna Rossa do it again. They are 3-0 with another flawless performance.
You have to analyze that, JK.
And they will be extremely happy about that. The task just gets a little bit harder now for INEOS Team UK. Remember, 1st to 7, you're off to the match. Still though, long way to go.
Good effort,
And
guys.
the final margin, 13 seconds, but a much closer, tighter, dramatic affair today. What do you make of that?
I say there's a lot of happy Italian fans right now all around the world. It's, yeah, I guess it's exactly what we expected, a really even boat race. But you know what? The Brits better start breaking through here at some stage, because 4-zip at the end of the first 2 days, and that's a pretty big mountain to climb. You know, that really is.
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli now sitting in the box seat. Yes, it's 13 races, but they now have a 3-0 lead. Confirmation of this Prada Cup final, race number 3, and it's a 13-second win to Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. They've got the treble already.
Be up for this. This is not far from winning a race. He's only been a few seconds behind, a couple of 100 metres. It's not like he's a very long way behind at all.
This is the race committee. The wind sampling period is complete, and this race will start on schedule.
That's all we want to hear, is the race on schedule.
Shirley, race is on schedule. We're all good to go. We've had a little bit of time now. Is there a condition change, breeze change? Give us a rundown, please.
Kenny, a little bit less wind than we've seen. I'd say 12 to 14 knots. We're currently sitting behind the start box, and there's a great view of the wind coming down in bands. It's like it's falling off Wahiki, landing on the sea. So difficult to call. It heads out the boat kind of conditions. I think for Ben Ainsley, you know, he eats pressure, he thrives on it, and I think we're going to see fireworks here. We have to see fireworks.
Thanks, Shirley. It's great to have your eyes in the skies up there. Andrew Campbell on the water. Is there any difference in the setup of the boats? Have they got similar jibs on? Any changes that we can see?
Yeah, both boats went jib down between the starts, but they're both back up on what looks like the J3s. You know, this is the condition that these boats were built and designed to sail in, man. It's about as nice as you could ask for these races to go off in, and so we're going to see some really nice stuff, I'd imagine.
The voice you are hearing is our guest commentator at Chase Boat 1, flight controller for American Magic, Andrew Campbell. I just think of that speed of Luna Rossa sort of dialing up and getting ready, whipping across the front of the start line at 44 knots.
Out for a picnic, going 44 knots.
2 minutes and 10 seconds. They are allowed into the free-start area. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. How will they control the start? Will they control the start? Will they be allowed to control the start? Will Sir Ben Ainsley give them an inch? You are about to find out as Luna Rossa come in on port entry, and it won't be too far away. Watch the right-hand side of your screen as in comes INEOS Team UK.
Okay, nice. Okay, stand by, Joe.
Yeah, stay here.
We have seen the Prada boat actually do that high box move, and they're actually turning up into it slightly right now and trying to slow down. When the two boards go down, Nathan, these boats are actually purposely trying to slow down so they don't use up all that space in the start box too quickly.
Yeah, exactly, and they're doing 30 knots, but they are sailing at not full speed right now, and that's because there's just not enough space in this box. What's going to be most interesting here is the turnaround time from Prada, and is Ben going to jump them, or is he going to go past and push them back? We'll just follow the conversation on board.
Killing 55, killing 50, boundary 19 away.
Let's have a look at it. Drive in front of him hard, set up, let's.
Get ready.
So Ainsley might go back early, and there's still a lot of time.
Turning hard here. Maybe a re-roll here. Turning hard, turning up all the way.
Yep.
Okay.
Re-roll. Water.
Now, interesting move, Nathan.
Boards up.
Little flight. Little flight problem, but still should be some time for them to get it back going again.
Big moment though in this race number 4.
I think they're late, guys. I think they threw that start away with that handling error. I think that was a big mistake from INEOS Team UK. You can't afford to do that against this kind of competition.
I think you're right. Not even close. Not even close. This is going to be even worse than that last race.
He's on time. Okay, set up, let's.
Crossing.
Ley line still 5 away.
Ready.
2, 1, board down.
Ain't got it.
Go, trim out.
Okay, 26s.
Race 4, Prada Cup final 2021. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli with a 3-0 lead. And another mistake at the start by INEOS Team UK.
Little different scenario, though. That actually closed up, Nathan, much more than we thought there at the end. INEOS was late, but not real late, and it actually kind of stuck the Italians into a weird spot. They were actually a little early for the pin end of the start.
Let's go back to the start.
INEOS here gets massive heel there.
Moment coming up in this race, you guys. This is a big moment coming up to the boundary. It's going to be a tight cross by Luna Rossa, not by much. They go early, Nathan, to give themselves a gap out on that right side if they need to again.
Yeah, but Luna Rossa aren't giving them much space. They're going to have to sail in a bit of batter here and tack back again, and there's not much space in that boundary. Is there, Andrew Campbell?
They had the short part of the racetrack, and you're seeing that INEOS is going to have to go right back, and they're not going to have a lot of time to build here on port. You know, the heel's just not your friend for the flight control in that restart, and you find moments where you can't keep the boat in the water, but really happy to see him easily able to take off in this 12-14 knots of breeze.
So you're a flight
right back in the race.
You're a flight controller, Andrew. So what do you think happened there? Give us a little rundown.
Without being on board, it's always impossible to know. These guys, they fight really hard to make sure the platform is level through all these maneuvers. When all three boards, or two boards and the rudder are in the water, it takes a lot of coordination on board INEOS between three guys often to keep the boat down. And if one thing goes wrong, if one guy's not quite in the right spot and there's optimums, then they can all go haywire really quickly.
Here we are, just stuffing your competitor to the top of the screen, to the short side of the race course. This is turning into the grinding world championships here again.
Yeah, pushing through him then. I think we're almost clear ahead. Clear ahead of him here.
Okay, speed's good.
Good pressure. Performance here, ragazzi.
So, reaching speeds of sitting around 36 knots. Luna Rossa Prado back to the pre-start. Look at this heel. Look at this moment at this pre-start of race number 4. What must be going through Ben Ainsley's head right now?
Reminders of a couple weeks ago, unfortunately. I think all of us, I think everybody around the world watching the America's Cup. If you saw a couple weeks ago, and unfortunately the boat that Andrew Campbell was on, you just saw, you kind of have that same feel for it. Oh.
We could theorize what happens there, but I think we're going to have to wait till after this race and find out at the press conference what exactly happens there. Looks like when the windward board comes up, there's a big heel.
And there's Ainsley coming
he almost
across
got
the
crushed
boat.
to Lewin, yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious.
You know, I hate to go back to it, but in the pre-show a number of days ago, you talked about there could be one moment where something breaks, something happens that could change the face of this regatta. We almost got it.
Well, we almost just lost a sailor there at the same time. I mean, that was close. When that boom goes flying down on the Traveler, that becomes a dangerous situation very quickly.
And we must apologize for some colourful language coming off the boats at the moment, but as we move on, it's sport, and the lead by Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli is 150 metres into the sky with Shirley Robertson. Not the start they wanted, INEOS.
Oh, but definitely the start, Stephen, that Luna Rossa wanted. They must be feeling so confident in this position. It's almost carbon copy of race 1. To me, the breeze looks great. It's good on the right-hand side, and you know, Luna Rossa have really just had INEOS exactly where they wanted them.
Approaching the top gate for the first time in race number 4. Again, it is a 6-leg race. Both boats in phase at the moment. The final tack to head into the gate for Luna Rossa. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, the challenger of record, doing everything right on the second day of racing in the Prada Cup final. Top gate for the first time, heading on the downwind leg. But right on their tail, INEOS Team UK.
Big down in 3.
Big mistake at the start, but they're in this race as we would expect. 12 seconds to margin.
It's becoming kind of familiar, this 8 to 13 second. But same boats are in the same position again. If you're a British fan right now, you're starting to get a little nervous. Things aren't going your way. The brakes aren't going your way.
Once again, Luna Rossa jarred to protect the position. They're just in phase with the competition here and basically staying between your competitor and the next mark.
Here now. There is the pressure coming down. There is less pressure in the middle of the course. Pressure coming
Isn't it
from the boundary.
amazing when you hear on board the communication between all the protagonists,
way, guys.
how
Long
calm
this
it
way.
is
So no
when you're in
rushing in this
control.
The flight controllers on this boat is the opposite helmsperson. The helmsperson on the right side of the boat, Jimmy Spithill, is actually the flight controller right now while Francesco Bruni drives. And your friend Pietro is really becomes the eyes out of the boat, Nathan, on these, especially on these runs.
And he's been getting more and more involved every race. I think he's growing confidence in that position, and both helmsmen are trusting him more and more every race. So it's a great dynamic that's developing there.
Is it a dynamic that can take them all away? All the way
Right here,
to the match would be something you'd want to start asking if this blows out to a 4-0 lead at the end of the day, because it was something that no one expected to see. Twin helmsmen.
Twin helmsmen. Whoever would have thought. And
sharing is caring.
4-0.
Okay, 22 will come quickly with an up.
I would say 4-0 is almost insurmountable if it weren't for Sir Ben climbing out of a few holes during his Olympic career in the past and chewing up the competition. So
He matches.
Don't forget he was on that Oracle boat in San Francisco as well.
I knew that was coming. I knew you couldn't.
You laid it on the tee for me. That's perfect.
The 16th tee box.
What was it? It started with just a make and if.
Don't worry, guys. This race isn't over. We're only 150 metres, 160 metres in it. It's all about what INEOS can do here to get some splits and just start fighting. So we'll just keep listening on board. Keep listening to what they have to say as they approach the bottom mark here.
The long lane line
22 away.
I think you can trust the number.
It's hanging a little bit in the right there.
Yeah, it looks better on the left-hand side of the course up this next work.
Copy. That's good for the JK then.
Okay, 10 seconds blitz.
Copy.
Setting up.
Crossing.
Breeze just coming left there, getting further away with the ley line.
Okay, I'm ready.
Still 7 seconds. He jives, he on lane.
Okay, 2, 1, 4 down, turning. My rake, my
That was the voices on board INEOS.
right behind us.
They don't sound like a group that's under stress, that's for sure.
It's coming up.
Right out.
Kenny, I think they're just keeping it close, keeping it calm, and just trying to wait for an opportunity to get back in this one. There's no point forcing something when you're this close.
Intriguing to watch the acceleration coming into the top gate by.
Here's a difference, Stephen, is Luna Rossa likes the breeze left, he just said, and the other boat likes it right, or vice versa. I think they're going to go opposite directions. How's that?
Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli. Leads on the leg, and away they go around the mark.
One of those skid roundings again, Nathan.
And it's follow the leader. In comes INEOS Team UK, 10 seconds in it.
Yeah, JK in a split. There it is.
My wheel. Your roll. My roll.
World Championship. We're going to rename the Americas.
Trim, yeah, one track, trimming up, boys. Okay, good.
Surely, the Brits like the left side. The Italians, we're talking about the right side. Which side would a double gold medalist go to?
I knew you were going to ask me that. You know, there's not much in it. There's definitely less wind in the middle of the course. To me, if we're back to that 2 breezes, you know, on each side. Looks great on the left-hand side by the spectator boats, but it also looks good coming down the gap on the right-hand side. And I guess if I was to pick a side, I'd be hanging out to the right.
And a right-hand shift right now as our course indicator shows, so both boats probably going in the right direction. Andrew, can INEOS find a little lefty before they get to the boundary?
I mean, that's the beauty of these racetracks, is that they're just not wide enough to give yourself a lot of leverage. And so right when you're whipping up in a nice righty here, that's just about time to tack. And so you're going to find Prada in nice control out of the exit of this one in all likelihood.
Probably hit them hard and push them back to the short side of the course. This time is the left side of the course. That's my guess, Andrew. What do you think?
I would definitely look for these guys to hit them on this exit.
For those of you at home, we're not talking, Nathan, physically hit. We're talking about trying to grab the breeze from your opponent.
This is the umpires. GBR boundary penalty. GBR boundary penalty.
It's the last thing that they need right now.
Look at our track.
Penalty clear.
and out
You
the
can
boundary,
hear the
Ben Lee.
frustration developing too. You hear Ben. That was a comment to the umpire. That wasn't a comment to people on board.
Here it is.
Oh, that's close. Yeah, what you see there is the boat doesn't actually go out of bounds, but there's an area around the boat. It's a diamond shape. It's about a metre that it goes round. So that diamond must have just gone over the boundary there.
And remember, this is not speculative by the umpires. This is done digitally. So the boats have measurement devices, GPS measurement devices all over them to within about they say a couple centimeters. So this isn't guesswork. This isn't just guesswork. If it goes over the boundary, it went over the boundary.
Well, the amazing thing, we get the joy of watching virtual iron, getting to see how it unfolds, and it makes watching these AC75s, America's Cup in 2021 so much more fascinating as well. But if you're Ben Ainsley, penalty on, penalty off, just like that, you'd be just swiping your brow saying, oh,
yeah, you're right. You're frustrated, though. I totally agree with Nathan. You're starting to hear a little bit of frustration in that calm, cool, and collected voice of his.
Look at the effort on the faces of the 3 of the 6 grinders on INEOS Team UK. Kenny keeps talking about being the grinding world championship as they grind to put pressure into these boats. But they said it was an efficient way of doing things.
Explain what they're doing there, Nathan.
Well, there's Freddie Carr at the front of the boat. They're just charging on the handles, and the whole goal that they're doing is they're creating hydraulic pressure. People just think they turn handles and they aren't making decisions. They've got little buttons and switches with their feet. They'll be, deciding where the energy's going. Does the energy go to the main sheet? Does it go to the Cunningham? You've got all the displays in front of them. They know the pressures they need to go to. They'll be shifting gears. Okay, we need to change the gears on the pumps. This boat's got a set of handles for each individual, so they'll be measuring what they're doing, and each person has a role to play on that boat.
And I suppose in terms of design philosophy, it's quite innovative to go down 2 grinders.
Well, they've still got the 8 grinders there, but each of them's got their own set of handles, and they're actually allowing a flight controller to leeward, not grinding. And then when you switch across the boat, we're on the other side of the boat. That's Chris Brittle there. And man, look at them go. They don't see the race at all. They are turning, looking at their screens, and just adding power so that Ben Giles and the guys at the back of the boat can throw it around in attacking job.
That's a big part of the engine room right there.
Set up. Crossing.
Saw with Chris Brittle before. He can produce a lot of power when you need it.
Same thing going on this boat. Different setup, but same exact thing, the power on the boat.
It's coming up a little.
Heading towards the top gate and the halfway mark in this 4th race of the Prada Cup finals. Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli haven't been behind all day. And they round the mark and head on the downward leg. But right behind them comes INEOS Team UK.
Fairway driver.
Okay. Fairway drive.
Copy. I will.
But that margin is going to get a little larger this time around.
Bearing away in 2.
Talking about making something happen on board the boat. Giles Scott and Ben Ainsley, they're going to roll into a jibe here and try to split across the race course. At least that's what they talked about. Fairway and a jibe.
Just like that, they changed their plans on you. That's exactly what they were saying.
Thank you.
Try and make something of it here. They were trying to force an issue, and now they've changed their plan.
My pitch.
And you saw Prada jibe there on their own, make their own decision in the open racetrack. I think we're seeing just a slight right-hand trend for the racing here. And long starboards upwind, long ports downwind now. It's definitely a bit of a different racetrack than we were seeing in the first race.
So, Andrew, do you think the reason why INEOS didn't jibe in the end is that they just don't want to be following? They've got to try and find a bit of leverage on this race course, which is pretty narrow for the speed at which these boats go.
You're exactly right. They were talking about getting a split at the top mark, and by the time they got there, Luna Rossa had already jibed, so that kind of puts that decision-making process in a different light. And they went all the way to boundary to try and get a little bit of leverage to leeward of them, but there's just not much out there because it's starting to be a right-hand racetrack.
The decision-making must be split-second decision-making.
Yeah, but that was all about just doing whatever the boat in front of you gives you. So they, by Prada jibing, all of a sudden, they didn't have a choice. They need to split the race course. They're not drag racing down this boat right now. This red and black boat. They're going too well. They got to do something, and surely the desperation halfway through the race, that's typically not a good thing. Although they look like they're in a pretty tiny spot right now. What do you see from up top there, Shirley?
Kenny, I'm right on the right-hand side, just as Andrew called it. It feels all kind of right now. The pressure's coming down that gap of Waikiki, and it looks really good on that side. And you're right, we're seeing Luna Rossa just make their own decisions now, go where they want to go. And quite surprised, really, to hear Ben say that, you know, that we have to make something happen. It's the first time we've heard a hint of desperation into their decision-making.
It looks like they're almost in such a right-hand shift. It looks like they're almost laying the mark, Shirley, from this position.
So you want to probably do 2 quick ones? Yeah, maybe.
I can't quite see Kenny, but they're not far off it, that's for sure.
We just heard
Jimmy talking about doing 2 quick jibes
here.
Yeah,
there you go. Yep.
Yeah, he still likes that left-hand turn. He's so favored with this righty. There's a big streak coming down the center right-hand side of the racetrack. You see INEOS is in that shift now. They had to come up, almost up to Prada's line before they got into that puff, so they're not going to make any gains where they were, unfortunately.
But when you talk about gains on this downwind leg for Luna Rossa Prada, really, they had the foot to the floor. The accelerator was firmly planted as the gap widened out to over 500 meters. And they will take the bottom gate and hit on that upwind leg for the last time. They were screaming down that leg.
They'll lose a little bit of their lead because of these 2 jibes, but like Andrew and Shirley just said, right-hand side of the race course is dominant right now, so they had to do the 2 jibes, and also look at how favored that mark is. It's the short mark around to get them quickest up to the top gate.
INEOS Team UK around the bottom gate, 22 seconds the margin.
And just a painful soak from INEOS to get into that mark, you know.
Here is the voice of Andrew Campbell, flight controller, American Magic, joining us on Chase Boat 1. Just to the right-hand side, you can see the margins at all the gates. This is a 6-leg race. We're now on leg number 5.
So once again, here we're going upwind, and you can see the angle almost difference here. It looks like Luna Rossa are pointing higher than INEOS Team UK, and that's probably just shift related. That right-hand side of the course is getting more pressure. Often more pressure means you point a little bit higher. They're not really giving any opportunities for INEOS to get back into this race. They did the smart thing, the double jibe at the bottom, got around the bottom mark nice and cleanly. They might have thrown away a little bit of the lead, but, you know, as we all picked up there, that mark was so favoured that the shift is right shift right now, and it's getting tougher and tougher for INEOS right now, isn't it?
Well, Nathan, the one word that still comes to mind watching this second race and going back to race number 3 as well, control, and the phrase being in control, doing what you want to do to force INEOS to try and keep up.
Course access 40, almost a 19-degree right-hand shift reading on our gauges down here, Shirley, and I'm sure it looks like that out on the water.
Yeah, it's right, and it's very long on starboard tack as well. I mean, a really dominant position for Prada. They're in more breeze. We've seen them just getting a little bit more height from that, and they are on the long tack, so good news for them.
2, 1.
All right, they're not even going to get, they're going to go back to the short side of the race course, Nathan, and protect the right that much harder. These guys, they're not being fooled right now by much on Luna Rossa. Impressive.
It's as if they can hear Shirley in the helicopter saying the pressure is so much better on the right. Look at that. They went slightly to the left, but they're more or less just protecting the right-hand side of the course. They're actually too far in front now to even give disturbed air in the competition. They're kind of just sailing the wind, keeping competition in check, and sailing really well, aren't they? Not just today, but yesterday. They haven't put a foot wrong so far.
Whatever they did to the boat post the round robin series, the semi-finals, has worked.
It Paz, where, you know, this speed comparison here at the bottom between the two boats. You see the little dips with the tacks. They're tacking back here once again. We'll see a dip in a second. But on average, you know, they're looking like they've got a speed edge, don't they? You can see the green line is heavily above that orange line.
I think if you're Emirates Team New Zealand right now and you're looking at these speeds and the gains that this boat has made up win, are you nervous yet?
Well, they'd be checking this data against their own data, and they'd know a lot more than we would. We're going to speculate, but I'm pretty sure Team New Zealand are loving the fact that they can watch this racing, get this information that we're all seeing, and they'll know, but Luna Rossa aren't going to know if they're going to be up to speed come March.
Yep.
As soon as you mention Emirates Team New Zealand, you go, the great unknown. You got two teams here that have been racing and racing and racing, and a team that's had to plan its own little playground, its own sandpit for a while.
These guys have spent 85% of this leg on starboard tack. It's exactly what you want when you're ahead.
Interesting chat on board at the top, Mark. Okay, Jimmy was talking about the tack bear away, and they're actually going to go the bear away jibe and try and get further down the race course, but I think he thinks it's a lot windier on the right-hand side than the left.
Completing the 5th of 6 legs of this 4th race of the Prada Cup Final 2021. And again, it's Luna Rossa rounding the mark first and leading the way. And they're on their way home in this 4th race.
Stand by. Soft here. 3, 2, 1.
Andrew, not to bring up the pass, but they kind of took the easy route out there, and probably gave up a little bit of their lead, but probably took the safer route, right?
Who doesn't like a good tack barrel, you know? The left mark's clearly favored here. You know, it's an easier route. They're not going to get one and in here down this run, but there's almost a case where that could happen. No, it's a safer bet, and you know that INEOS is going to do the same behind you, so you're just protecting the geometry here in my mind.
Good puff jibing from here.
Really starting to lengthen out now for Luna Rossa against INEOS Team UK.
Just a huge amount of camber they create in the bottom of both of those sails when they need it. They have a really adjustable setup, don't they, maybe? You were up there watching it yesterday from the helicopter.
Oh, yeah, from the helicopter, yes, it was super visual. You can see jib car goes forward, grunt the jib up, the same with the main. They can rotate the mast, they can really camber up the mainsail so much more. You can see the twin skin main here in action right now. They've got so much power in those sails, and as soon as they turn up wind, it just goes boom, and it goes flat again. And you can see they're really doing a great job of harnessing the power. You know, downwind you have less apparent wind, so you camber it up a bit. This is great camera angles we can see here. And all the teams, I think, have the ability to do this, but I think Luna Rossa are making the most. They're making the most of their equipment that we've seen so far.
Like we are carrying the pressure down.
Look at that one person's head hanging out to leeward.
That would be Spithill doing the flight control, right?
And everyone else's head's out of the wing.
They've done a nice job of fairings out there. And can you see the sail shape differences from the helicopter, Shirley?
It's good.
No. We're a bit further away. We're racing down to give you the finish off. You know, you can't when they got into Nathan was saying, and just how much they're able to really power those sails up. It's so impressive.
Impressive is a word that will describe Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli in the first 4 races of this Prada Cup Final 2021. As they head towards the finish line, they are now only 3 races away from meeting the defender, Emirates Team New Zealand. And that will mean the challenger of record goes up against the hometown boat. They have been flawless yet again. And to come across the line they do. Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli go 4-0 And they have announced to this regatta, come and get us if you want us. But we are in the box seat, and their fans on Valentine's Day are feeling the amore.
Go straight to Paride, straight on the bow.
Yeah, straight into a long toe, boys.
INEOS Team UK, it's been a heck of a story. It's not over yet. Pre-Christmas, nowhere. Post-Christmas, 2021, unbeatable. Now they've lost 4 in a row. What can they do? 41 seconds, the losing margin. What must be going through the mind of Sir Ben Ainslie and this crew?
Okay. Get off it, guys. Sorry it wasn't better. Got them on Wednesday.
Wednesday's a long way away. If you're a British fan, going back to the Christmas Cup, the regatta, you can make a case they got them right where they want them, right? If you're a British fan, they got because they hadn't won a race. They hadn't won a race at all in the year 2020, and then all of a sudden they jumped into the round robin, pulled a couple levers correctly, and off they went. Well, they've dug themselves a hole again. Time to find those levers.
The comparison between the two boats and the performances is almost Luna Rossa, who have never really been good or bad through this whole regatta, have suddenly found another gear.
Well, the sailboat racing right now, right, Nathan? I mean, they're right now it's the crews are making the difference right now. We saw in both of these races 2 really pretty even boats.
Yeah, we definitely did. We saw 2 pretty even boats. We saw 2 easy wins for Luna Rossa in the start because of some mistakes from Luna Rossa, and we saw them just picking some win chips.
Let's confirm race number 4 of the Prada Cup finalists in 2021 on the Waitemata Harbour. And it's a 41-second victory to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. The score now 4-0 to the challenger of record.